Well, I have the privilege, thank you, of introducing a very important person, the first Undersecretary for Trade in the history of the Department of Agriculture. And no sector of the economy is more impacted by open, fair, and free trade than agriculture, food and agriculture. And we're going through some interesting times right now when it comes to tariffs and trade wars and other kinds of things. But the truth of the matter is that the Department of Agriculture is the real impetus to get our agriculture goods sold overseas. And Ted McKinney is the new Undersecretary. He was the director of the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. He was involved in agribusiness beforehand. He was very involved in the national FFA movement. He was vice chair for the state of Indiana, and he served as co-chair for bringing the FFA to Indianapolis from my part of the country, Kansas City, but I don't hold that against him. You know, he was doing what he thinks is best. The report today released tells a story of an uncertain future in agriculture, but shows that building incomes and supporting employment on and off farms in food insecure countries is not just the right thing to do, but it also makes economic sense for globally, for young people, and for the world as a whole, and for the United States of America. So it's a pleasure to introduce my friend, Undersecretary for Trade of the USDA, Ted McKinney.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Secretary and friend Dan, and she's somewhere out there, but my friend Catherine Bertini, there you are. Just saw you at that Purdue Ag Alumni Fish Fry. What a champion these two are for this wonderful cause of food. Well, I have to tell you, when I learned that there might be a chance that I could come join this conference and say a few words and maybe say hello to some friends, I jumped at the opportunity. I did not know today would be the day that some new tariffs would be released, but I came anyway because I love what you do. I came to this first meeting, the first for me, I think it was in 2013, also in this building, and it was a bit transformative because I had not participated in a global-oriented, food-oriented, feed those that might need some nutrition kind of conference. And it was very transformative, and I think the next year, the company I was working for then was a sponsor here, and my goodness, you all merged with the G7, I think, and President Obama spoke, and Hillary Clinton, and so many others, and it was just remarkable. So I am a huge fan of the Chicago Council, more than you might know, and thrilled to be here. I also heard there's a lot of youth involved here. I wore the FFA jacket. Yeah, way to go. I proudly wore the blue and the gold jacket. I proudly have the 4-H four-leaf clover as part of my background. In fact, I continue to advocate for youth. One corner of my office, FFA threw up all over. I've got my FFA blanket and a pillow and a very historic painting of the Kansas City stage, and I've got my 4-H clover block that keeps the door open. You don't really need one, but I'll keep it there anyway, and the 4-H and American flags on my desk. And so for all of you who may or may not be involved, I hope you never ever forget your roots, because I haven't and I won't, because they have done so much for me. And I understand there's a global youth corps for the Chicago Council. Great idea. Whatever we can do to help you in that regard, consider us all in. Well, so I want to just share with you a couple of things. My out-of-body experience on the importance of nutrition and food for people really came when I was a 4-H'er. Tipton, Indiana, produced a lot of tomatoes at that time. It's processed tomatoes. Some at the time were fresh, and so I learned what migrant workers were about and the importance of connecting and helping them with at least a little bit of slice of life while they were spending time there. It was strange. It was different. I had not been exposed to that, but it was so heartwarming to know that maybe, just maybe at a young tender age of 14, you really can make a change in somebody's life. You can. That got renewed when I was at Elanco, Ag Division of Eli Lilly and Company. And our CEO had had an out-of-body experience when he was leading the business at Brazil. The driver of his car, you had to have a little extra protection as a CEO then, so the driver of his car on a Saturday brought his 2 young children. And he said, "Well, great to see you, come on in." Little did he know that that driver had not been paid for a month, and the kids were just plain hungry. And he felt like there was a connection with that CEO that might be of help to he and his family. Can you imagine opening the door, seeing your driver, not knowing that much about the family, and seeing 2 little girls that are hungry? Oh my gosh. So we had a transformative experience worldwide, all employees. You had to tell what your experience with hunger was. And the stories that I heard from people that were in well-to-do positions about having been on SNAP funds as a child. That'll curl your hair. So I've seen firsthand, and then glorious, not 3 weeks ago, I met and got to see my first McGovern-Dole project. Now, Chairman Roberts of the Senate Ag Committee reminds me it surely should be Dole-McGovern, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And to see those little children, aged 5 to 12, walking through, get the meal that they're given for the day at that school, thanks to McGovern-Dole and the Guatemalan government, and being told privately that for about a third of them, it was the only meal they were going to get that day. Now, since my hair already got curled earlier, that brings a tear to the eye to know that maybe, just maybe, the good of the U.S. government and farmers or ranchers that produce those products that are shipped there might be helping somebody's life. Transformative. So you may wonder, what does USDA do with all of this? Well, it's truly multifaceted, and that's where, standing on the shoulders of people like Dan Glickman and others who have been in his position as the Secretary of Ag, Catherine Bertini in her role, come to bear. And all I can hope to do is be a very good steward and sustain, grow. If we need to be more efficient, we'll do that. So in USDA, and in my area in particular, we have international capacity building and development programs. We have basic and applied research programs, a little less so in my department than the Ag Research Service. Data and information gathering is probably the least well-known, but perhaps the most important, because that's when you can see the trends of we're going to run out of food, or we're okay, or where and how you apply your resources. And finally, promotion of science-based policies and regulations that expand ag markets. And I don't mean just expand U.S. markets. I believe trade is a two-way street. Trade does not equal exports. Trade is a two-way street. So we operate under the premise that food aid alone is not enough, and I stand by that. There is a time, and there are many times, when food aid, outright gift the food, is the right thing. But we rather believe that ag productivity and lifting people up with a hand up and getting them on their feet to produce their own food, and that for others is the way to go. So this Youth for Growth is one cool theme, and call me a fan once again. I mentioned the McGovern-Dole. It is a terrific program, and I was very pleased to learn this morning that this omnibus bill that's being considered does include funding for McGovern-Dole, along with a couple other similar programs. We didn't know if it would be there or not. Since its inception in 2002, it's fed over 40 million primary school children. Oftentimes, it brings that country and its resources along, and oftentimes, in fact, our goal is to step out because that country and its community have stepped in. Nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to vacate it too early. And it also brings teacher training and community programs. You know what I was most bowled over? Not just with the kids, but the parent-teacher organization and how absolutely incredibly involved they were there. A bunch of the moms were in the kitchen cooking it. The dads were helping out. I mean, it is, you talk about building a family, that's what it was. There's other flagship development programs like Food for Progress. Food for Progress is when we take U.S. commodities, sell them, take the cash, and build markets. Let me tell you what I saw in Guatemala. They were talking, and this cooperative, this fruit cooperative, was so incredibly proud of the numbers that have been growing in their co-op, farmers. And these farmers would, of course, be producing fruit. And you know what was remarkable to me? Is they said, unsolicited, I didn't go there, they said, the thing that we're most proud of is that at least 15 or 20 of these people, without this program and the ability to grow fruit and have a market, would be headed toward your border and be part of the immigration issue. Now, never mind how fine or not they might have been, the fact is that we were using a food program to keep them there, and these are bright young talent. This is the future of their communities. So thank goodness for Food for Progress as well. We also have trade and scientific capacity buildings, and these are two of my very favorite. It's ironic that Senator Cochran is somewhere right at the retirement phase in his career as a U.S. Senator, because there's a program named after him, and it really involves what I call 2-week sabbaticals. Our people in the Foreign Ag Service out at all the embassies, we have 90 embassies and we extend to 170 countries from those 90 embassies, they have enough money to say, we think a number of people, a dozen or 24 people, should receive a scholarship from the Cochrane Fellowship Program and take a 2-week sabbatical to the U.S. And they learn, how do you do an MRL on a pesticide? How do you go about a modern food produced system? So cool. And then it goes on, but I'll just close by saying that I think, I hope, I believe USDA is all in to do this. We can't do it alone. It's with people like you. It's with the Congress. It's with the Secretary and others. But I hope that the best I can offer is that my heart is with you, as is my head. I hope our resources are there in the right way. It's always getting tighter and tighter. But if we do things right, we're going to be helping communities around the world produce children, youth, since that's the theme here, that are going to be productive citizens and can lead their countries like I was allowed to do with my family farm and our experience in Indiana. So I'm very grateful for the invitation. I wish you all the best. Those of you in the youth, I want to see your hands. Where are the youth? Yeah, you keep going. You are our future. You are our future. And anything I can do to help beyond what I'm already doing 4-H and FFA, let me know. So thank you, and thank you all. I understand there's some questions maybe, or do we have time?
Secretary, just stand there a minute.
Stand here.
You have a voice like golden honey.
Golden honey.
Syrup. I mean, try this. Close your eyes, because I couldn't see the Undersecretary backstage. Close your eyes, and then just listen to this. So, Undersecretary, just on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your optimism right now?
Oh, it's 11. It's 11.
Golden honey, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much.
And by the way, I say it's 11, even though we're going through some trials and tribulations on trade. I think we're right-sizing so that we can get to both free trade but fair trade. That's what's behind that. Mm-hmm. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.